Happy summer season, everybody, and Tony here with my review of Gounod's Roméo and Juliette with once again conductor Carlo Rizzi, which I saw at the Teatro Real de Madrid. This marked my second time of witnessing Thomas Joly's production of Gounod's Roméo and Juliette at the Teatro Real de Madrid because I wanted to see, hear, witness, and experience the absolute majesty that both Javier Camarena and Nadine Sierra had to offer as the eponymous protagonists, Roméo in Javier Camarena's case and Juliette in Nadine Sierra's case. When it came to their chemistry as the iconic star-crossed lovers, it could never, ever be paralleled by today's standards. Their absolutely amazing stage presence when they're together, their overall charisma, wonderful charm, exceptional brilliance in everything that they've done from start to finish was a thorough thrill ride, and it left me utterly breathless and totally astounded as to what both Javier Camarena and Nadine Sierra had to offer as Roméo and Juliette respectively, both on a technical level as well as on an overall performance level. Individually, they were both just as fabulous all around. Javier Camarena has been a tenor, let alone a light lyric tenor / lyric tenor that I've always admired ever since I was a teenager. I loved him in a lot of the Rossini roles as well as the bel canto roles and some of the Verdi roles that were actually more suitable for his voice, like Il Duca di Mantova and even Alfredo Germont, and a great deal of roles where he could exercise his top register. And what he was able to offer as Roméo was exuberance, charm, and tossing high notes left and right, which were his major assets. Granted, I would have loved for him to sing the aria Lève-toi Soleil in the key of B major, but when it came to his overall performance as Roméo, I couldn't complain. Regardless, I still love everything that Javier Camarena had to offer. He was thoroughly exceptional in his technique. He was able to rock those high notes with splendor, excitement, exuberance, and pinpoint accuracy. And even though there were times that I did hear a bit of tiredness in his voice, his stage presence more than compensated whatever issues I would have had with Senor Camarena. Granted, there had been greater tenors of the past that I continued to love as Roméo, and my two most favorite ones are without a doubt Beniamino Gigli and Jussi Björling. Both of them set the high standards of how Roméo should sound like in terms of sensitivity, charm, excellent technique, and an overall charisma that made their performances legendary. And I dare not forget about Augustorello Affray, who was just as sterling and virile as Roméo. But ultimately, when it comes to the overall complete package, my heart and mind and soul still go out to Beniamino Gigli. Nevertheless, Javier Camarena offered up an amazing deluge and mélange of exceptional exuberance, wonderful artistry, and a charisma that few other tenors could ever compare. So bravo to Javier Camarena as Roméo with his exuberance, his charm, and that awesome combination that he managed to pull off as a singing actor. Stealing the show tonight was indubitably the ever fabulous, ever amazing, and ever charismatic, as well as ever brilliant Nadine Sierra. I know that Nadine Sierra has her avid lovers, and very, very avid lovers at that, and has some critics, really harsh critics at that. But as for me, I've always admired Nadine Sierra ever since she was a really young singer when she was a teenager. The fact that she started out as a 16-year-old was absolutely astounding. The fact that she started from a lot of these young girl roles and graduated eventually into her true calling in a lot of the lyric soprano and lyric coloratura soprano roles was thoroughly phenomenal. I have seen her career grow from strength to strength. I've heard her sing Gilda more appropriately when she sang this in Marschpark in Hanover through a radio stream. I've heard her in some recordings on YouTube, as well as some excerpts of her singing. And while some people can complain about some facets about her technique, like insufficient chest voice or certain moments where she was kind of nasal, I didn't really hear that from her tonight, because from what I've witnessed from Nadine Sierra when she performed the role of Juliette live at the Teatro Real de Madrid, I was hit with a voice of size, beauty, majesty, and sheer charisma. She managed to make me feed off of the palms of her hands every time she opened her mouth to let out, let alone emit, a wonderful cascade of sound and beautiful artistry, exceptional dedication to her craft, and a thorough and constant grit that she had as a performing artist. I could compare Nadine Sierra to the likes of Mary Costa, Anna Moffo, Silvia Gesti, Rita Shane, and Valerie Masterson, as well as Britt Marie Arun, and even Barbara Hendricks, because of that wonderfully beautiful lyric soprano voice that could hit all the high notes of a coloratura soprano with full abandon. In fact, when listening to Nadine Sierra sing a lot more up close and personal at the Teatro Real de Madrid, she kind of reminded me of an amalgamation of Mary Costa, especially if you Disney fans know her as the voice of Princess Aurora, but was also renowned in opera as Manon by Massenet and Musetta from La Boheme, and Anna Moffo, one of the most pristine interpreters of Violetta Valéry, Lucia Ashton, and Elvira Balton from I Puritani. She definitely reminded me of those two singers meshed together, but coupled with that trademark dagger-like sharpness that Miss Sierra possessed, that made her thoroughly amazing to witness and made me root for her. In fact, when she sang her arias, I pretty much wanted her to encore, let alone give an encore performance for each of her arias, whether it was Je veux vivre or Dieu, quel frisson court me veine. I wanted her so badly to have those as her encore numbers. At least we, the audience, gave her the pleasure of having long-standing ovations. And that is just how much the public is hungry for exceptional singing, involved artistry, great charisma, and not just another pretty face, just singing out some pretty tunes and looking nice on stage. Nadine Sierra was a total stage animal and music animal from beginning to end. And to quote Dr. Emilio Pons from Vocal Reckoning, she went totally balls to the wall in her interpretation of Dieu, quel frisson court me veine, or Juliette's Poison aria, with full abandon. She held nothing back whatsoever, and she just went full stop with her high notes and held certain notes sostenuto with everything that she's got, guts and all. Hence, Nadine Sierra deserves not only the gold medal from me, but a platinum record, the platinum belt, titanium belt, and everything that I could ever give to her because she was that damn amazing. So I salute Nadine Sierra's excellent, let alone outstandingly superb performance as Juliette, coupled with her equally amazing chemistry with Javier Camarena as Roméo. The other big name involved in tonight's performance of Gounod's Roméo and Juliette was the veteran bass baritone Laurent Nourry, who is also known as Nathalie Dessay's husband. And he also performed the role of Capulet 9 years ago, live streamed at the Metropolitan Opera House alongside Vittorio Grigolo and Diana Damrau as the star-crossed lovers. Granted, his voice has shown some wear and tear, and there was kind of a wobble that I heard in his voice, but there was still an essence of virility, masculine charm, and a thorough roundness that made his performance as Lord Capulet come alive with everything that he's got. And yes, I could never ever forget the wonderful contributions of the past done by Paul Placeau or Claude Calais, if you want a baritone, or even Kenneth Schoen, or even Charles Cambon, who could sing both baritone and bass baritone roles. Nevertheless, Laurent Nourry was an absolutely fine and dashing singing actor. He continued to deliver the goods and do so with a great deal of aplomb, confidence, and self-assurance. Roberto Tagliavini was just as amazing as Frère Laurent, all thanks to his smooth basso cantante voice with excellent precision, excellent technique, and a wonderfully noble and handsome stage presence that made me thoroughly love him in every role that he is in. This is definitely one of the roles that he had owned so magnificently, all thanks to his trademark smoothness and evenness all throughout the registers, and therefore he deserves a whole lot of salutes from yours truly for his pristine musicianship as Frère Laurent. Benjamin Appel was a dashing Mercutio. He had a charismatic stage presence. He had a lot of ebullience and exuberance going on about him. However, his voice lacked in roundness and richness, and he kind of sounded more like a lazy tenor trying to have a go at being a baritone. He basically specializes in a lot of lieder, as I have been going around social media, and he does a lot of lead repertoire. So this is the first time I have seen him in an actual operatic role, but his performance of Mercutio does leave a lot to be desired. It's not a round, noble, rich voice. It's not a voice that I could go crazy for. It's a decent voice at best, but it's a voice that is insufficient in baritonal depth. And if I wanted a baritone who could pull off Mercutio, I'd stick with Robert Massal, or let's say Michel Don, Henri Guy. Those baritones had a lot more resonance in their voices. Or even Arthur Andrés, who was able to deliver such a thrilling Mercutio. Nevertheless, Benjamin Appel was a handsomely charismatic and noble stage animal in terms of his charisma. It's just that his vocal resources need a lot more work in terms of depth, but not the artificially produced one that emits a lot of barking. I'm talking about actual pharyngeal depth. And I do encourage him to continue to develop his technique in the right way, because Benjamin Appel does have good material, mostly in Lieder and some in opera, but he really does need to take further care that he uses a lot more pharyngeal space so that he doesn't sound too high as a baritone. Nevertheless, I still have to give him some credit for his charisma, and here's also hoping that he continues to improve in the right direction. Eloise Mas, oh my goodness, she was an absolute delight as Stefano. Her creamy lyric mezzo slash coloratura mezzo voice was a welcome treat. Granted, she could use a lot more chestiness. Granted, she could use a little bit more coordination, especially in her chest tones, but the tone and the creaminess that she managed to produce made her thoroughly engaging to witness, and she was a wonderful, wonderful treat as Stefano. While I can never forget about the likes of Francis Greer, or Mimi Benzel, or Claudine Collier, or even mezzo-sopranos like Frederica von Stade and Anne Murray as my personal favorite Stefanos, I still have to give Eloise Mas credit where credit is due. Her absolutely amazing stage presence, her gorgeously creamy tone, and her fierce attacks at the high notes, especially her high Cs, were thoroughly incredible. She showed no signs of giving up, no signs of slowing down, and she never backed down by any stretch of the imagination. So brava to Eloise Mas for such an incredibly outstanding portrayal as Stefano the page boy. Maciej Kwasniewski was thoroughly engaging, handsome, and sufficiently charming as Tybalt. He had a nice, focused, light lyric tenor voice. Granted, he was a bit shaky in the start, but he got way better in the opera, and he could definitely use a lot more growth as a fine, light lyric tenor. Nevertheless, he also had a very dashing stage presence. He was an absolutely fine stage actor and singing actor, embodying Tybalt in his nobility, but also in his paranoia against Roméo. And he did a fine job thoroughly inhabiting this character. Granted, I still flock to Louis Rollin and André Malibreira as my personal favorite Tybalts of all time, but in terms of Maciej Kwasniewski, he was still in fine shape, and he was still able to deliver the goods as Tybalt. Sonia Ganassi struck again as Gertrude, the nurse, and she was still in fine form, although she is in the twilight of her career, given that her voice doesn't possess as much luster and sheen as it once did in the 1990s, but she was still a dedicated singing actress. David Lagares continued to be just as noble and dashing as the Duke of Verona, all thanks to his sturdy and formidable basso cantante voice. Roméo Biloni was still as fine as Comte de Paris, all thanks to that dashing stage presence of his and his sufficiently fine voice. Josep-Ramon Olivier was still fine as Gregorio, although sometimes his barking does need to be reduced a lot more and actually focus on actual singing. Pablo Martinez was thoroughly amazing as Benvolio, also using his light lyric tenor voice to his full advantage. Javier Castaneda was handsomely virile, as always, as Valjean. And the exceptional collaboration done by Laura Suarez as Manuela, Elena Castresana as Pepita, and Bartomeu Guiscafre as Angelo can never ever be paralleled because they all did superbly. Overall, the singing was exceptional, especially if you have Nadine Sierra and Javier Camarena singing up storm after storm after storm as the titular star-crossed lovers. You definitely have to hand it to both Javier Camarena and his sheer charisma, sheer artistry, and just letting it out with full abandon, high notes, emotion, dedication, and all. That was just how much he continued to win me over as a singer. Even though there were some faults that I did spot with certain performances he had back then, like his occasions to croon, I could forgive all that because Javier Camarena really sold it, as always, as a thoroughly charismatic and thoroughly sturdy and strong singing actor with everything that he's got. Nadine Sierra proved herself to be one of the finest, if not one of the most exciting singers of the 21st century, given her wonderfully creamy tone, her amazingly exuberant and involving stage presence, and her overall charisma that made me love her body and soul as a wonderful full lyric / lyric coloratura soprano in the vein of Mary Costa and Ana Moffo. That is just how much Nadine Sierra won me over, and there was no doubt that Javier Camarena and Nadine Sierra stole the show, and it would be no surprise that I would love to see them one day collaborate as Hoffman and Antonia from Offenbach's Le Comte Hoffmann, Wilhelmeister and Mignon from Thomas Mignon, Corrado and Medora from Verdi's Il Corsaro, Rodolfo Walter and Louisa Miller from Verdi's Louisa Miller, Vincent and Mireille from Gounod's Mireille, and even De Grieux and Manon from Massenet's Manon. The possibilities for these two amazing singing actors are absolutely endless, and these two singing thespians, i.e. Javier Camarena and Nadine Sierra, proved themselves to be absolutely astounding, and they deserve a whole lot of medals of honor, badges of honor, and platinum records, gold medals, you name it, they have earned it with everything they got. So bravi, bravi, and more bravi to Javier Camarena and Nadine Sierra as Roméo and Juliette, respectively. The conducting done by Carlo Rizzi continues to be just as thorough, as well as fine all around, and he managed to keep everybody together as well as ensure that there was sufficient detail. And what more can you expect from the chorus, orchestra, and the corps de ballet from the Teatro Real de Madrid? Everybody was exceptional all the way through, and it was a uniform effort. Javier Camarena and Nadine Sierra were not only the shining stars of tonight, they were planets of their own in the most exciting way possible. I was absolutely enthralled to see what Javier Camarena and Nadine Sierra could offer as opera singers, and they managed to own everything that they possessed as Roméo and Juliette. You all owe it to yourselves to go to the Teatro Real de Madrid to catch their performances as Roméo and Juliette respectively, because they were able to give the technical and the theatrical goods as amazing singing thespians. And for those of you who caught this performance of Gounod's Roméo and Juliette from the Teatro Real de Madrid, what did you think of it? Did you feel that both Javier Camarena and Nadine Sierra did amazingly as Romeo and Juliette? Did you feel that either Javier Camarena or Nadine Sierra caught your attention? Did you prefer one or the other? Or did you feel that Javier Camarena and Nadine Sierra did not live up to their fullest potential? Please let me know in the comments below. Well, that's it for my review of Gounod's Roméo et Juliette from the Teatro Real de Madrid. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to my channel and share it with your friends. So until then, I wish you all a good night and a nice summer season, everybody.